Welcome to another episode of the Trivia Power Hour Gaming, the show where I quiz you on gaming topics you want to know about. If you're new to the show, here's a quick rundown of how it works. I'll ask you 5 multiple choice questions, each with 4 possible answers, and give you 10 seconds to decide before revealing the correct choice. If you want a better chance at answering the random bonus question at the end, make sure you pay attention to all the answers because one of them will be the correct answer for the bonus question, for which I don't list any possible answers. Make sure to keep track of your score in the comments below and play along, and maybe like the video and subscribe if you learned something new. With all that out of the way, let's get started on today's episode focusing on movie-based games trivia. As a new medium trying to find its footing, video games look to other established forms of entertainment as early inspirations. Sports, for example, inspired some of the earliest versions of video games, such as Tennis for Two and Pong, and remain a strong genre to this day. Another natural source of inspiration came from movies, which took a lot of pressure off of the primitive gaming technology by referencing characters and stories the audience was already familiar with. Now, these movie-based games have a, mixed reception at best. But where did this whole trend start? Question number 1. What was the first game based on a movie? Was it A, Death Race, B, Tron Deadly Discs, C, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or D, E.T.? The instant marketing appeal of a game based off a movie was, and still is, one of the easiest way to draw an audience to a game. I mean, who doesn't want to play their favorite movie, right? Back in 1976, the idea of video games itself was still so novel that combining the two is probably seen as a surefire way to get kids to empty their quarters in your arcade cabinet. Unless the fact that that game was based off the R-rated movie Death Race 2000, which made parents a little hesitant to let their kids play, to say the least. Death Race, the arcade game, came out just 1 year after the film in 1976, giving players control of a Grim Reaper with the goal of running over as many gremlins as possible within a time limit. While the pixelated black and white game may look about as tame as a game could be, back then that little car bumping into vaguely person-shaped figures and turning them into graves was enough to get it banned not long after release. The game was controlled with a steering wheel, lever for forward and reverse, and a gas pedal. Apparently no brakes were required in this game. In the movie business, there's arguably no bigger name than Disney, especially when it comes to animated films. Things have shifted somewhat with the emergence of CGI animation, all but replacing traditional hand-drawn animation. But back in the day, Disney was second to none in terms of producing high-quality animated features. With a stable of some of the most recognizable and popular characters in the world, plus the logical step of adapting animated characters to video games, which is just another form of animation, it made perfect sense for Disney to start bringing their films to the interactive medium. Just like the previous question, though, all endeavors have to start somewhere. Question number 2. What Disney animated film was the first to get a game adaptation? Was it A, Snow White, B, The Little Mermaid, C, The Black Cauldron, or D, Aladdin? Mickey Mouse, as Disney's mascot and most iconic character, was the first character of theirs to get their own game. He got 4, in fact, 3 Game & Watch games and 1 in the Atari 2600, before they would have one of their feature films get adapted. Rather than license the game out to be made by Nintendo or Atari for their consoles, Disney chose Sierra Online, who were innovators in adding graphics to previously text-only adventure games, to create a game for the Apple II, MS-DOS, Amiga, and Atari ST based on The Black Cauldron. Released in 1986, The Black Cauldron was an adventure game very much like Sierra's King Quest game series, the first of which had been made just before work began on The Black Cauldron. There were multiple plot branches and endings depending on key choices the player made, which was one of the first times games had done this. So we all know there are tons of games based on movies. The bigger the movie, the more likely it is to get a game. And a series of successful movies tends to lead a series of games released in step with the films. Not all big movie series get an equal amount of games though. Question number 3. What film series has the most games? This is only counting officially released games that follow the events of the movie. No spin-offs, side stories, or fan games. So, is it A, The Lord of the Rings, B, Star Wars, C, Harry Potter, or D, James Bond? While you may think that movie series with the most films would have the most accompanying games, that is not the case. Even if we were to expand the rules to allow spin-off games, and potentially even fan games, no other movie franchise has had as close to many games as the Star Wars films have. In terms of officially released games based on one of the now 8 films, there have been over 30 thus far. Lord of the Rings, even with the advantage of being based on some of the most popular and enduring book series in modern history, has only 17 games that actually follow the plot of any book or movie. And Harry Potter, which benefits from both having an incredibly successful series of books and 8 accompanying films, only has 13 games. One interesting extra is that all of these choices have in common, with the exception of James Bond, is that they all have LEGO adaptations. As common as it is for video games to be based on films, the amount of movies based on games is still relatively small, and in a lot of people's opinion, for good reason. While there have been some big screen adaptations that have gotten decent reviews, and one series that didn't but still managed to keep on making enough money to reach 6 films, it is still usually the smaller, sometimes even fan-made films that capture the spirit of the games much better. So, putting these two ideas together, we come to the next question. Question number 4. What horror director directed the Resident Evil 2 commercial? Was it A, George A. Romero, B, Wes Craven, C, John Carpenter, or D, James Wan? Okay, so this one was probably pretty obvious. Who better to direct one of the most influential, yet still full of cheesy lines and nonsensical puzzles, than the father of the modern zombie film, George A. Romero. Capcom was so proud to have Romero direct this 30-second ad that they even credited him as director in the opening shot as though it were a film. While the ad is certainly dated, the costumes are a little ridiculous, and even the small amount of acting isn't all that great, it is still more faithful than any of the big budget movies that have come out. As it turns out, Capcom was so happy with the ad that they wanted him to be the one to turn Resident Evil into a full-length film, however ended up passing on the project upon seeing his first draft of a script, which you can now find online for yourself and read. As opposed to directors attempting to translate games into film, there have been a couple examples of directors involved to some level of their films being adapted into games. Usually this amounts to nothing more than a general blessing or some generic quote that they would probably force to say without even playing the game to get some good press going. What is extremely rare is for a film director to have an active role in development of a game, and to take it a step beyond, there are almost no tie-in games that were even written and directed by the same person or persons as the film it accompanied. However, there is at least one. Question number 5. What was the first tie-in game to be written and directed by the writer or writers and directors of the film? Is it A, The Evil Dead, B, Avatar, C, Alien, or D, Enter the Matrix? There are few writer-directors who wear their nerdy inspirations on their sleeve, let alone take it to the next level of actually taking full creative control of the video game tie-in to their films. That's exactly what the Wachowskis did for the first Matrix game, Enter the Matrix, did though. In addition to the Animatrix, Enter the Matrix was designed to be an integral part of the Matrix universe, and as such needed the creative team at the helm. The writing-directing siblings filmed over an hour of film footage especially for the game, as well as had actors and stunt doubles do motion capture for the game's in-game animations. However, even with the Wachowskis in full creative control, the game received mixed reviews and left most people disappointed that the game didn't focus on the main character of the films, Neo. If you made it this far into the video, thank you, and get ready for your bonus question. Today's question will be about the roguelike platformer Spelunky. This procedurally generated dive through trap-filled caves and tunnels is full of secrets and Easter eggs, but there's one in The Jungle that makes an interesting reference. Bonus question: what character's grave can you encounter in Spelunky? The answer is Ash from Evil Dead. And, as a little bonus tip, buried under his grave is a shotgun you can pick up. Thank you for playing this episode of the Trivia Power Hour Gaming. Go ahead and post how you did in the comments, leave a like, and consider subscribing if you enjoyed this episode and want to see more. Did you know what Nintendo means, or what game controllers were originally called? Check out my videos on game company names and controller trivia for more fun gaming trivia to learn.